They left no scrolls titled secrets, but their lives whispered them every day. In Egypt, water was prayer, bread was magic, sleep, a sacred voyage. They did not shout their wisdom in temples. They lived it in every touch, every breath, every sunrise. Tonight we listen, not to the gods carved in stone, but to the hands of the living. This is where the sacred begins. They left no scrolls titled secrets, but their daily lives whispered them, nonetheless. Tonight, we journey into the hidden chambers of the ordinary, where bread held magic, where ink created eternity, where sleep became a sacred voyage. The ancient Egyptians did not shout their wisdom from temple walls alone. No, they encoded it in the rhythm of their hands kneading dough, in the careful stroke of coal around their eyes, in the quiet moment before surrendering to dreams. You've heard of their pyramids, their golden masks, their gods with animal heads. But have you heard of their secrets hidden in plain sight? The ones woven into every morning wash, every evening meal, every word committed to papyrus? These are not the mysteries of tombs or curses. These are deeper, more intimate. The kind of secrets that only reveal themselves when you slow down, when you pay attention, when you remember that the extraordinary often wears the disguise of the everyday. So before we begin, settle yourself. Dim the lights if you haven't already. Let your breathing slow. Close your eyes and let the ordinary reveal itself as extraordinary. If you're enjoying this journey through ancient wisdom, consider subscribing to join us on more voyages through time. Share where you're listening from. The ancient world loves to know its secrets are still being kept. Now, listen. Do you hear it? The sound of wind across desert sand. The distant whisper of water. The deep silence of a moonlit marketplace. Empty now, where only shadows of memory remain. We stand here, you and I, at the threshold. An old wooden door, worn smooth by countless hands, creaks open before us. The night air carries something. Not quite a scent, not quite a sound, but an invitation. The first secret is waiting. Shall we begin? Historia 1. The Secret of Clean Skin. Chapter 1. Water as Sacred Gift. In the blue dark hour before dawn, she rises. The air is still cool. A brief mercy before the sun claims the day. Her feet touch the stone floor, and she moves with the practiced quiet of ritual. The water jar stands where it always stands. She pours it slowly over her hands, watching it catch the last starlight through the window. This is not merely washing. This is the first offering of the day. To her own body. The Nile gave them everything. Crops, fish, clay, papyrus. But perhaps its greatest gift was this. The ability to begin again, cleansed. Each morning, they believed that sujera, dirt, attracted malevolent spirits. Unseen things that clung to skin and hair, whispering misfortune. So they washed. Not out of vanity, though they appreciated beauty. Not out of social pressure, though cleanliness marked status. They washed because the body was sacred ground, and sacred ground must be tended. The water runs over her wrists, her forearms, her face. She closes her eyes. In this moment she is not simply clean. She is renewed, ready, protected. This was their secret. That water was never just water. It was ceremony. It was prayer. It was the daily reminder that they inhabited a vessel worth honoring. And so, the day could begin. Chapter 2. Natron. The white powder. In a wooden bowl on the washing table sits a substance that looks almost like snow. If snow were slightly yellow and smelled of minerals and dry earth. Natron. They found it in the desert, crystallized in dried lake beds, where water once gathered and evaporated under the relentless sun. Sodium carbonate, sodium bicarbonate, sodium chloride. They had no names for these elements, but they knew what the white powder could do. She takes a pinch between her fingers. Rough, slightly caustic. She adds water, making a paste, and begins to work it across her skin. It tingles, scours, removes the dust and oil that accumulated overnight, accumulated simply from being alive in this climate. What they didn't know, couldn't know, was that natron was antibacterial, that it disrupted the cell walls of microorganisms, that it was, in essence, a disinfectant refined by nature itself. But they knew it worked. They knew that skin treated with natron stayed healthier, that wounds washed with it healed cleaner, that clothes scrubbed with it emerged nearly white again, smelling of salt and sun. They used it for everything, for washing, for preserving, eventually for preparing the dead for eternity. This was their secret. Sometimes the earth itself provides the solution, and all you need to do is pay attention to what the desert offers. The white powder dissolves, taking yesterday with it. Chapter 3. The Art of Bathing. There are no vast marble bathtubs here, no heated pools like the Romans will later build. But there is method, there is art, there is intention. The bathing room is small, stone-floored with a gentle slope toward a drain that leads outside. Simple, functional, brilliant. Her servant, or perhaps her daughter, it's hard to tell where labor ends and family begins in these close households, pours water from a large jug. The water cascades over shoulders, down the back, pooling briefly before finding its way to the drain. 3 jugs. That's the ritual. 1 to wet, 1 to wash, 1 to rinse. Between the second and third, she reaches for a small clay pot. Inside, a mixture of fine desert sand and oil, moringa oil, light and slightly nutty. She takes a handful and begins to scrub. Arms, legs, feet, elbows. The sand exfoliates. The oil moisturizes. Ancient physics working in harmony. Her skin, when finished, gleams like polished bronze. The morning light, now filtering stronger through the high window, catches on her shoulders. She doesn't just feel clean. She feels prepared, armored almost in her own carefully tended skin. This was their secret. That bathing was not passive. It was active, participatory, a collaboration between body, water, earth, and attention. She steps out of the bathing room transformed. Chapter 4. Hair removal as ritual. The razor is bronze. Sharp. It catches light like a small moon. To us this might seem vain, removing body hair with such dedication. But in the fierce heat of the desert sun, in homes without air conditioning, in a world where lice and fleas were constant threats, this was survival disguised as grooming. She sits while her hair is carefully, methodically removed. Not all of it. Eyebrows remain, sculpted and dark, but everywhere else the body is made smooth. Arms, legs, underarms. For priests, even the scalp. Sometimes they use razors, sometimes tweezers. Bronze again, surprisingly sophisticated in their grip. Sometimes a paste made of sugar, honey, and lemon juice, heated and applied and pulled away, taking hair with it. The ancient art of sugaring, still practiced today. It's not comfortable, but comfort is not the point. Cleanliness is. Coolness is. The ability to move through heat without the trap of sweat in hair. Men do this too. Soldiers, scribes, farmers. The smooth body is not gendered. It's practical. It's protective. It's a choice made in direct conversation with the climate they live in. This was their secret. That what looks like vanity is often wisdom. That removing hair was removing habitat for pests. That smooth skin was not about beauty standards, but about survival, made elegant. The razor glides. The skin emerges. Another layer of defense established. Chapter 5. Wigs and head covers. Here is the paradox. They shave their natural hair, then don elaborate wigs. She reaches for hers now. A beautiful piece, shoulder length, made from human hair imported from the south, woven with fibers of palm for structure. It's heavy, well crafted, expensive. Why? Why remove your own hair only to replace it with false hair? The answers lay like sediment. First, practicality. A wig can be removed, cleaned separately, stored away from the scalp. It doesn't collect sweat or lice the way natural hair does. It can be maintained without the complexity of managing real hair in this climate. Second, protection. The sun here is not gentle. It burns. It bakes. It causes headaches and heat stroke. A thick wig is shade. It's a portable shadow. Third, status. The quality of your wig announces your place in society. The materials, the style, the intricate braiding. Wigs are art you wear. Fourth, fashion. Simply beautifully, fashion. The joy of transformation, of choosing who you present to the world each day. She settles the wig onto her clean, smooth scalp. It frames her face, changes her silhouette. She is ready now to be seen. This was their secret. That convenience and beauty need not be enemies. That removing one thing to replace it with another better thing is not contradiction. It's refinement. It's control over your own presentation. She adjusts it slightly and steps toward the polished copper mirror. Chapter 6. Teeth and Breath. The morning routine is not complete without this. The care of teeth and tongue and breath. She reaches for a small bowl containing a grayish paste. The ingredients were ground yesterday. Salt for abrasion, dried iris for fragrance, mint for freshness, and a little pepper for bite. Mixed with water, it becomes the world's earliest toothpaste. Using her finger, or sometimes a frayed twig from a specific tree, creating primitive bristles. She scrubs. The texture is rough, gritty. Not pleasant exactly, but effective. They have no knowledge of bacteria, or plaque, or gingivitis, but they have experience. They know that food trapped between teeth leads to pain, that bad breath disrupts social connection, that rotten teeth can kill, slowly, through infection spreading to the jaw and beyond. So they clean. They rinse with wine mixed with spices, an antiseptic mouthwash by accident, by intuition. They even choose small amounts of natron to whiten teeth. Though the abrasiveness sometimes causes more harm than good, their teeth still suffer. The bread they eat, ground between stones, contains tiny particles of sand and grit that wear down enamel over decades. Dental abscesses are common, painful, sometimes fatal, but they try. They care. They understand that the mouth is a gateway, not just for food, but for words, for breath, for the presentation of self. This was their secret, that oral hygiene is ancient, that the desire for fresh breath and strong teeth is not modern vanity but timeless wisdom. She spits into a small basin, rinses, and smiles. Chapter 7. Coal. More than beauty. Now comes the transformation that defines them. The mark that will echo through millennia, instantly recognizable even to future civilizations. Coal. She sits before her mirror. Polished copper, reflecting her face with soft accuracy. On the table beside her, 2 small jars. One contains black powder, ground galena, sulfide of lead. The other contains green powder, crushed malachite, copper carbonate. With a small wooden applicator, wetted slightly, she begins. The line starts at the inner corner of her eye, extends outward, wings upward. Dark, dramatic, precise. This is not makeup as we understand it. This is protection. The coal reduces the harsh glare of relentless sun. The same principle behind a football player's eye black. It reduces reflection on water and sand. It helps them see more clearly in blinding brightness. But more. Modern analysis has shown that lead-based coal actually stimulates the production of nitric oxide in skin cells, which boosts the immune system and helps prevent eye infections. They didn't know the chemistry, but they knew it worked. They knew that eyes lined with coal stayed healthier in a dusty, dry climate. Men wear it. Women wear it. Children wear it. It's universal. It's practical. It's beautiful. The eyes, they believed, were windows to the soul, and windows need protection. This was their secret. That beauty and utility can be the same thing. That aesthetics often evolve from necessity. That the most striking elements of their appearance were originally born from survival. She blinks at her reflection. Her eyes are enormous now. Powerful. Protected. Chapter 8. Oils and moisturizers. The desert takes. The sun takes. The dry air takes moisture from skin constantly, leaving it cracked and painful if unprotected. So they give it back. After bathing, after grooming, after kohl, comes this. The anointing. She pours oil into her palm. Moringa today, though sometimes it's castor, or almond or sesame. Each has its own weight, its own scent, its own properties. She begins with her arms, massaging the oil in slow circles. The skin drinks it immediately. Thirsty, grateful. She continues. Shoulders, legs, feet, paying special attention to elbows and knees, where dryness cracks deepest. Sometimes the oil is pure. Sometimes it's infused with crushed flowers, lotus, or with resins like myrrh, or with ground cinnamon. The scent rises as her hands warm it. The room fills with fragrance. This is not luxury, though it feels luxurious. This is maintenance. This is keeping the body's largest organ, skin, functional in hostile conditions. They understand something we forget, that skin is not just covering. It's boundary. It's protection. It's the border between self and world, and borders must be maintained. The oil sits on her skin for a moment before absorbing completely, leaving only a subtle glow and the lingering scent of whatever essence was chosen. This was their secret. That moisturizing was not cosmetic indulgence but essential medicine. That oil was armor against the desert's assault. That taking care of skin was taking care of survival itself. She is gleaming now, ready, protected from the inside out. Chapter 9. Perfumes that lasted. At special occasions, festivals, banquets, important gatherings, there is one more step, one more layer of aromatic protection and pleasure. She reaches for a small cone. Solid. About the size of a fig. It's made of rendered animal fat, mixed with crushed myrrh, frankincense, cinnamon, and other precious resins and spices. This is a perfume cone. An invention so clever, so perfectly adapted to its environment, that it seems almost modern in its sophistication. She places it atop her wig. There it sits, looking slightly strange to our eyes. A small cone perched on her head like a hat. But wait, as the evening unfolds, as she moves and talks and laughs, as her body generates warmth, something magical happens. The cone begins to melt. Slowly, gradually, the fat liquefies, carrying the fragrance with it, running down through the wig, releasing scent in a steady, hours-long diffusion. By the end of the night, the cone will be gone, but she will be enveloped in fragrance. Her wig will smell divine. Her shoulders, where the oil dripped, will carry the scent for days. This was their secret, that they understood controlled release before chemistry had a name for it. That they could make perfume last not through alcohol suspension, which evaporates quickly in heat, but through fat, which melts slowly, reliably, beautifully. The cone sits, waiting. The party has not yet begun, but the transformation is complete. Chapter 10. Nails and henna. Look at her hands now. Look closely. The nails are clean, trimmed, shaped, but more than that, they're colored. A warm orange-red, the distinctive hue of henna. She applied it yesterday, mixing the powder from crushed henna leaves with water and lemon juice, creating a thick paste. She painted it carefully onto each nail, onto her cuticles, even into the quick of her nail bed. Then she waited. Hours. Letting it stain. Letting the natural dye bind to the keratin. When she finally washed it off, her nails emerged transformed. Not painted. Stained. The color will last for weeks, fading gradually as the nail grows. It's beautiful, yes, but it's also functional. Henna has antifungal properties. In a climate where feet often go bare or sandal-clad, where moisture can build up between toes, where fungal infections are common and uncomfortable, henna is defense. The wealthy stain their nails more frequently. The very wealthy have servants who do it for them, creating intricate patterns that extend up fingers and onto palms. Status, again, written onto the body. But even the poor, even workers, will occasionally apply henna to their nails. Because it's practical. Because it works. Because beauty and health are not separate desires. This was their secret, that natural dyes are natural medicines. That color can be cure. That decorating yourself can simultaneously be protecting yourself. She flexes her fingers in the light, admiring the warm terracotta glow. Chapter 11. Laundry, the weekly ritual. Once a week, sometimes more often for the wealthy, comes the washing of clothes. Everything they wear is linen, white linen from flax grown along the Nile. It's breathable in heat. It wicks moisture. It's perfect for the climate. But it also shows every speck of dust, every drop of sweat, every smudge of coal that escaped containment. So they wash. They take the garments to the river's edge. Or if wealthy, their servants do. The linen is submerged in the Nile's water, soaked with natron, and beaten against flat rocks. The sound echoes across the water, rhythmic, percussive, communal. Multiple families washing together, talking, laughing, supervising children who play nearby in the shallows. The beating loosens dirt. The natron lifts oils and stains. The river itself carries away what's released. After washing comes rinsing, multiple times. Then wringing, twisted tight, to remove as much water as possible. Then draping, over bushes, over walls, over special wooden frames built for this purpose. The sun does the rest. Intense, relentless, it dries the linen in hours. But more than that, it bleaches. It sterilizes. The UV radiation we're now so wary of was their greatest ally in laundry. It killed what remained. It restored whiteness. It made old linen look renewed. This was their secret, that the sun is the best laundry partner. That white linen is white because sun and water and natron work together in ancient chemistry. That cleanliness, again, was not just aesthetic but practical, essential, sacred even. The smell of sun-dried linen is specific, warm, clean, slightly crisp. It's the smell of order restored. Chapter 12. The Invisible Clean. They could not see germs. They had no microscopes, no knowledge of bacteria, or viruses or fungal spores. They did not know that disease could be transmitted by invisible organisms too small to perceive. And yet, they acted as though they knew. Before entering a temple, one must wash. Fully. Completely. This was not negotiable. It was law, enforced by priests who stood at every sacred threshold. After touching a dead body, one must purify, wash extensively, shave the body hair, change clothes, wait a prescribed number of days before re-entering normal society. After certain illnesses, after childbirth, after various bodily functions, wash. Always wash. Return to cleanness. Return to purity. They used the language of spiritual contamination, but the effect was epidemiological. They were, without knowing it, practicing public health, reducing transmission, creating barriers between disease and community. This was their secret, perhaps their greatest. That cultural intuition can achieve what scientific knowledge hasn't yet articulated. That you don't need to see germs to develop practices that limit their spread. That hygiene can be learned through experience across generations, encoded into religious law, and become second nature. They called it purity. We call it sanitation. It's the same thing, named differently, working identically. The invisible was made visible through their actions, through their dedication to clean. Chapter 13. Reflexo, et transiso. To wash was to pray. To anoint was to honor. To trim and shave and line with coal was to prepare. They understood what we've forgotten. The body is the first temple. Before any brick was laid for Karnak, before any pylon rose at Luxor, before the pyramids touched the sky, there was the body. Sacred, worthy, requiring tending. Every morning they performed their rituals. Not out of obsession, but out of respect. Not from vanity, but from wisdom. They knew that caring for the physical was not separate from caring for the spiritual. That cleanliness was godliness not as metaphor, but as practice. The wealthy did it with fine oils and perfect wigs, and servants who poured their bath water. The poor did it with shared natron and river water and determination. But everyone did it. Everyone participated in this daily act of renewal. In their cleanliness we see intention. In their cosmetics we see protection. In their rituals we see a civilization that understood. You cannot build an eternal legacy if you don't first care for the temporary vessel that builds it. She is ready now. Clean, anointed, protected, beautiful. The day can truly begin. Listen, do you hear water draining away? The sound of a stone basin emptying. The soft rustle of clean linen being folded. The first secret has been shared. But the morning is not over. There is hunger now. And hunger will reveal another secret. One written in flour and fermentation. And fire. Come. The kitchen awaits. Historia 2. The secret in every bite. Chapter 1. Bread, the staff of life. In the half-light of early morning, while the house still holds coolness, the baking begins. She kneels before the clay oven, built into the courtyard wall, still warm from yesterday's coals. Beside her, a bowl of dough that has been rising since before sunset. It's alive with wild yeasts, bubbling slightly, exhaling the sweet sour scent of fermentation. Bread is not simply food here. It's currency. It's offering. It's identity. There are more than 40 documented types. Round loaves, long loaves, flatbreads, stuffed breads. Some mixed with dates, some with honey, some studded with seeds. Some shaped into cones for temple offerings. Some formed into animals for children's delight. Workers are paid partly in bread. Temples stockpile it. The dead are buried with it. Sustenance for the journey through the underworld. When they speak of prosperity, they say bread and beer. When they speak of poverty, they speak of having neither. She reaches into the bowl, feeling the dough's texture. Elastic, slightly sticky, perfect. She forms a round, smooth loaf with practiced hands. The motion is meditative, rhythmic. It's the same motion her mother taught her, which her grandmother taught her mother. This was their secret. That bread was never just sustenance. It was social glue. It was sacred substance. It was the edible manifestations of the Nile's gift. Grain from flooded fields, water from the river, fire from the sun, transformed by human hands and invisible organisms into something greater than its parts. She places the loaf into the oven's heat. The baking has begun. Chapter 2. The magic of fermentation. Somewhere, generations ago, someone made a mistake. Flour and water, intending to bake it immediately, but were called away. By a sick child, perhaps. By a neighbor's emergency. By simple forgetfulness. When they returned, hours later, maybe a day later, the mixture had changed. Bubbled, expanded, smelled different. Not rotten, but transformed. Alive somehow. They baked it anyway, perhaps out of thrift, and discovered it was better, lighter, more flavorful. The texture was open, airy, pleasant to chew. They didn't understand what had happened. Couldn't see the wild yeasts floating in the air, landing on the wet dough, finding sugars to consume, releasing carbon dioxide as waste, creating those bubbles that made the bread rise. But they remembered, and they repeated, and they refined. Soon they were deliberately leaving dough out, creating starters, portions of old dough added to new batches, carrying the culture forward, batch to batch, generation to generation. Some families still use starters that are decades old, carrying the specific microbiome of their household through time. This was their secret, that they mastered biotechnology without knowing they were doing it, that they domesticated invisible organisms the same way they domesticated wheat and cattle. That fermentation was their first partnership with the microbial world, one that made food safer, more nutritious, more delicious. The loaves in the oven are rising still, even as they bake. The yeasts work until heat finally kills them, sacrificing themselves to the bread's perfection. Chapter 3. Beer. Liquid bread. While bread bakes, beer brews. The two are siblings, partners, almost the same substance in different forms. In a large clay jar, yesterday's beer bread sits soaking. This bread was made differently, partially baked, left deliberately crumbly and half-cooked. Now it sits in water, breaking down, releasing starches. She adds dates for sweetness, adds a portion of old beer for starter cultures, covers the jar loosely, letting air in but keeping debris out. Then she waits. Over the coming days, fermentation will occur again. Yeasts will consume sugars and produce alcohol. The liquid will transform from sweet water to slightly fizzy, nutritious beer, though not like modern beer. Thicker, less alcoholic, more like liquid bread, as they sometimes call it. Beer is life here. Everyone drinks it. Children, workers, priests. It's safer than water, which can carry disease. It's more nutritious than water, carrying B vitamins and calories. It's more pleasant than water, offering flavor and slight euphoria. Workers building the pyramids received beer rations, several liters per day, not to intoxicate them into compliance, but to keep them nourished and hydrated. Beer was labor fuel. At festivals, beer flows freely. At temples, beer is offered to gods. At funerals, beer is poured for the dead. It's woven into every aspect of life. This was their secret. That beer was food, not vice. That fermentation made nutrition portable, stable, safe. That what future civilizations would sometimes demonize as intoxicant was originally blessed as sustenance. She checks the jar. Already, tiny bubbles are forming. The transformation has begun. Chapter 4. Garlic and onions. The worker's gold. The Greek historian Herodotus, visiting Egypt centuries from now, will write with amazement about what he learned. That the workers building the Great Pyramids were fed radishes, onions, and garlic. He'll even record the cost. 1,600 talents of silver spent on these vegetables alone. The number seems absurd to him. Why not meat? Why not fine grain? Why these pungent common bulbs? But they knew. The workers knew. The overseers knew. The builders of monuments knew what their bodies needed. She chops garlic now, for the midday meal. The smell is immediate, powerful, unmistakable. It makes the eyes water slightly, but it's a welcomed sharpness. Garlic and onions have properties they couldn't name but could observe. They prevented illness among workers living in close quarters, sharing water, breathing shared air. They gave stamina, noticeable, real energy for physical labor in brutal heat. They kept the stomach settled, the gut healthy. Modern science knows why. These alliums contain compounds that are naturally antibiotic, antifungal, anti-inflammatory. They boost immune function. They improve circulation. They are, legitimately, health food. But they didn't need to know the mechanism. They needed only to know the result. Workers who ate garlic and onions regularly worked stronger and fell sick less often. So these common cheap vegetables became precious, became part of wages. became literally the foundation upon which pyramids were built. This was their secret, that the extraordinary often depends on the ordinary, that monuments rise on the strength of simple food, that garlic, dismissed by wealthier Greeks as peasant fare, was actually workers' gold, worth its weight in health and energy. She adds the chopped garlic to hot oil. The sizzle and fragrance fill the courtyard. Chapter 5. Honey, gift of the bees. On a high shelf, away from heat and moisture, sits a sealed clay jar. Inside, honey. It's precious, expensive, used sparingly but with deep appreciation. Because honey is magic, literal magic. She opens the jar carefully. The honey inside is thick, golden, slow-moving. Some crystals have formed, completely normal, easily resolved with gentle warming. She dips a wooden spoon in, letting the honey spiral back into the jar in that distinctive, mesmerizing way. A small amount goes into the bread dough for festival loaves. A spoonful is mixed with crushed herbs for medicine. A thin layer is spread on a child's scraped knee, covered with linen. A dollop sweetens evening tea made from chamomile and mint. They believe honey is tears of Ra, the sun god, that bees are born from his weeping, and honey is their gift to humanity, sweetness from sorrow transformed. What they don't know, but what we do, honey is antibacterial. The high sugar content draws moisture out of bacteria cells, killing them. The pH is acidic. Hydrogen peroxide forms naturally when honey contacts wound fluid. It's a perfect natural antibiotic that never spoils. Honey found in ancient Egyptian tombs is still edible, millennia later. So when they spread it on wounds, it works. When they mix it in cough remedies, it soothes and heals. When they preserve certain foods in it, they stay safe for months. This was their secret, that bees were their partners in medicine, as much as in sweetness, that honey was health care before hospitals, that nature, observed carefully, provides what's needed. She closes the jar reverently, honey still spiraling slowly inside. Chapter 6. Dates. Desert candy. From a basket hanging high, protected from mice and insects. She selects several dates. They're dried, shriveled, darker than when fresh, but still soft and impossibly sweet. Date palms grow along the Nile, their fronds a distinctive marker of water and life. The trees are generous, producing fruit for decades, requiring little care beyond occasional water. Each palm yields hundreds of pounds of dates annually. Fresh dates are delicious, but they spoil quickly in heat. Dried dates are transformative. The sugars concentrate, the flavors deepen, and they last for months, for years if properly stored. She bites into one now, feeling the sticky sweetness flood her mouth. It's nature's candy. Pure energy, complex carbohydrates, natural sugars, fiber, minerals. Portable nutrition that requires no preparation. Workers carry pouches of dates into fields. Children eat them as treats. Travelers depend on them for journey food. They're mixed into bread, ground into pastes, fermented into date wine. Versatile, reliable, essential. The palm tree itself is sacred. Its wood is used for construction. Its fronds for roofing, baskets, mats. Its fruit for food. Its sap can be tapped for sweetener. Nothing is wasted. Everything is used. This was their secret. That one tree carefully tended could provide so much. That dates were not luxury but staple. That sweetness doesn't require refinement when nature provides it pure. She saves the date pits. Later they'll be ground for fuel, or planted to grow new trees, continuing the cycle. Chapter 7. Fish from the Nile. In the market early morning, the fishermen have already arrived with their catch. The fish are still bright-eyed, scales gleaming, fresh from the river that gives them everything. There's tilapia, common, affordable, mild-flavored. There's catfish, whiskered, bottom-feeding, richer. There's Nile perch, large, meaty, prized. And smaller fish, dozens of species, each with its season, its cooking method, its tradition. She selects several medium tilapia, bargaining briefly, exchanging copper weights for protein. Fish is democratic food. The wealthy eat it grilled with herbs and fine oils. The poor eat it dried and salted. Fishermen eat it constantly. An occupational abundance. Everyone has access because the Nile provides. Some fish are sacred, never eaten. The Oxyrhynchus fish, believed to have eaten the phallus of Osiris. The electric catfish, associated with the god of thunder. These swim unmolested, religious protection ensuring their survival. But most fish are fair game, and they're preserved brilliantly, split open, salted heavily, dried in the sun until hard as leather. Rehydrated later with water, they become edible again. Nutrition preserved across seasons. She'll grill these tonight, whole, over charcoal. Stuff them with herbs. Coriander, cumin, garlic. The skin will char crispy. The flesh will steam inside, remaining tender. Served with bread and onions, it will be a feast. This was their secret. That the river was not just highway and field irrigator, but fishery. That protein was accessible to all. That preservation techniques allowed fish caught in abundance during flood season to feed families during drought. The fish, wrapped in palm fronds, are carried home. Chapter 8. Vegetables of the Flood. After the Nile recedes, after the sacred inundation leaves its gift of black silt across the fields, planting begins. And what grows in that fertile mud is almost miraculous. Lentils, chickpeas, fava beans, peas. These legumes, protein-rich and nitrogen-fixing, thrive in the post-flood soil. She's preparing them now for the evening meal. A clay pot filled with lentils, water, salt, sits over low fire. It will cook slowly for hours, until the lentils are tender, and the liquid has thickened into a rich broth. To this she'll add cumin, earthy, warm, coriander, bright, citrusy, garlic, always garlic, perhaps a bit of dried fish for umami depth, maybe some leafy greens, rough chopped. The result is not fancy. It's peasant food, working food, but it's nutritionally brilliant. Complete proteins when legumes are eaten with grain, fiber for digestion, vitamins and minerals from the greens, spices that aid in everything from digestion to inflammation. Meat is expensive, occasional, but legumes are constant, affordable, filling. They're ground into flour, mixed into bread. They're sprouted for extra nutrition. They're made into stews that stretch to feed many mouths. The wealthy eat them as side dishes, accompanied by meat and fine bread. The poor eat them as main dishes, accompanied by simpler bread and onions. But everyone eats them, because they work, because they sustain. This was their secret, that the flood didn't just water crops. It created the perfect conditions for plants that would feed millions. That legumes were the foundation of nutrition, hidden beneath the more glamorous bread and beer. That vegetable protein was not inferior but essential, democratic, life-giving. The lentils bubble softly. The smell of cumin fills the air. Sustenance is being built, slowly, patiently. Chapter 9. Spices as Medicine. The wooden box on the shelf contains small clay pots, each labeled with pressed symbols. Each pot contains a spice, precious, carefully measured, used with intention. Cumin for digestion. She adds it to heavy meals, to legumes, to anything that might cause discomfort. It works. Reduces bloating, settles the stomach, warms from within. Coriander for cooling. In the brutal heat, some foods are heating, creating internal fire. Coriander balances, refreshes, brings down inflammation. They add it to everything in summer. Fenugreek, for mothers. Nursing women drink fenugreek tea. Eat bread made with fenugreek seeds. It increases milk production. They've observed this across generations, modern science confirms. Phytoestrogens in fenugreek stimulate mammary glands, mint for breath and belly, chewed fresh after meals, brewed into tea for upset stomachs, rubbed on temples for headaches. Versatile, reliable, growing wild in damp corners of every courtyard. Black cumin for immunity. Tiny seeds, intensely aromatic, added to breads and stews. They call it seed of blessing. They don't know it's packed with thymoquinone, a powerful anti-inflammatory and immune booster. They just know that families who use it stay healthier. This was their secret, that spices were pharmacy before they were flavor. That every aromatic plant served double duty, making food delicious and making people well. That cooking was medicine, and medicine was often just cooking done right. She measures carefully, adds sparingly. These are not ingredients to waste. They're tools, remedies, tiny vessels of healing disguised as taste. Chapter 10. Eating together. The meal is ready now. Bread, still warm. Lentil stew, aromatic. Grilled fish, crispy-skinned. Onions raw and sharp. Dates for after. Water mixed with a little date syrup for sweetness. But the food is not the only nourishment about to happen. She calls her family. Her husband returning from fields. Her children playing in the courtyard. Her mother resting in the shade. Perhaps a neighbor who helped earlier with laundry. Perhaps a traveling relative passing through. They gather. They sit on woven mats on the floor, arranging themselves in a loose circle. The food is placed in the center. Shared bowls, shared plates. This is not a meal of individual portions. This is communal eating. They reach for bread, tearing pieces, using it to scoop lentils. They take fish from the shared platter. They pass onions and dates. Their hands move in practiced choreography, taking, offering, sharing, waiting, and they talk. They tell stories from the day. The husband describes a dispute in the fields, resolved wisely by an elder. The children report on a new litter of kittens discovered in a neighbor's grain store. The mother reminisces about a festival from her youth. Laughter, advice, questions, comfort. The food is being digested, but so is the day. Experiences are being processed through the alchemy of shared attention. This was their secret. That meals were never just about food. That eating alone was almost unthinkable, even impoverished. That the digestive process is not purely physical. It's emotional, social, spiritual. That conversation aids digestion as much as cumin does. The bowls slowly empty. Bellies slowly fill. But more than that, hearts fill. Connection is nourished. Chapter 11. Food as offering. Before anyone took the first bite, something happened. Something so automatic, so ingrained, that it's almost invisible. She took a small piece of bread, broke off a fragment of fish, scooped a tiny portion of lentils, and she set them aside on a small clay plate, near the household shrine where small figurines of ancestors stand watching. This is for them, the dead, the departed, the ones who came before. Every meal includes this moment, this acknowledgement, this feeding of those who no longer eat but who are still somehow present, still part of the family, still deserving of consideration. It's not elaborate. It doesn't require priestly intervention. It's simple, domestic, intimate, just. We remember you. We include you. You are not forgotten. Later the offerings will be removed, sometimes eaten by the family, sometimes given to animals, sometimes left to dry in the sun. The physical food doesn't matter. The gesture matters. The intention matters. They believe the dead need sustenance in the afterlife. But more than that, they believe that memory requires feeding, that relationships with the departed must be maintained, nourished, kept alive through small regular acknowledgements. This was their secret. That food connects not just the living to each other, but the living to the dead. That every meal is an act of gratitude for the food itself, for those who prepared it, for those who taught the recipes for those who are no longer here to share it. The small plate sits by the shrine. The ancestors are fed. The meal can continue. Chapter 12. Fasting and feasting life moves in rhythms, day and night, flood and drought, planting and harvest, and fasting and feasting. There are days when eating is restricted. Before certain religious ceremonies, priests fast completely. No food, no water, for prescribed periods. Purification through emptiness, creating hollow space for the divine to fill. Even ordinary people fast occasionally. After excess, after illness, during periods of mourning. The body is given rest. The digestive system is allowed to recover. They don't know about autophagy or cellular repair, but they feel the lightness, the clarity that comes from temporary emptiness. And then, the feast. Festivals explode with abundance, tables overflowing, roasted meats, mountains of bread, rivers of beer, dates and figs and pomegranates, honey cakes, fish prepared 20 different ways, vegetables in profusion. Eating becomes celebration, communal joy. The body is filled after being emptied. The contrast makes the feast more meaningful. Deprivation makes abundance sweeter. She understands this rhythm. She doesn't feast every day. That would be excess, imbalance, the path to illness. She doesn't fast constantly. That would be deprivation, weakness, the path to collapse. But she cycles. She breathes in and out. She fills and empties. This was their secret, that the body is temple, requiring both, the occasional rest and the regular feeding. That restriction and abundance are not opposites, but partners. That wisdom lies in rhythm, in cycles, in understanding that different times require different approaches. Today is normal. Tomorrow might be fast. Next week, festival. Each has its place. Each serves its purpose. Chapter 13. Réflexion et transition. Every meal was communion. Every bite a small prayer. They ate with intention. Something we've forgotten to chew. They didn't have nutritional science, but they had centuries of observation. They didn't understand biochemistry, but they understood bodies. They didn't know about vitamins and minerals, but they knew what foods gave strength, what combinations prevented illness, what rituals made eating sacred. The wealthy ate elaborate meals with many dishes, served on fine pottery, flavored with expensive imports. The poor ate simpler fare, served on rough clay, flavored with local herbs. But rich and poor both understood. Food is gift. Preparation is prayer. Eating together is ceremony. Fermentation was mastered. Preservation was refined. Spices were medicine. Legumes were protein. Fish was democratic. Dates were portable energy. Honey was healing. Garlic was protection. And bread was everything. Currency, offering, identity, sustenance, the staff of life, literally. Something to lean on when all else failed. In their kitchens, we see practical magic. In their meals, we see nutrition intuited. In their sharing, we see civilization built one communal bowl at a time. She clears the plates now. The meal is finished. Bellies are full. But more than that, souls are nourished. Connections are maintained. Gratitude is expressed. Listen, do you hear it? The sound of clay plates being stacked, water being poured for washing, the satisfied silence after good food shared, the soft murmur of digestion beginning. The second secret has been revealed. But the day is aging now. The sun is starting its descent, and as darkness approaches, another secret awaits, one written in the way they surrendered to night. Come, the bedroom is being prepared, the headrest positioned, the evening prayers about to be whispered. Sleep, they knew, was not mere rest. It was voyage. It was vulnerability. It was transformation. Let us discover what they knew about the sacred act of sleeping. Historia 3, The Secret of Sacred Sleep. Chapter 1, beds of wood and woven rope. As the sun begins its final descent, painting the sky in shades of copper and gold, the bedroom is prepared. The bed stands raised, not on a modern box spring, but on 4 wooden legs, carved from sycamore or acacia, solid, sturdy, lifting the sleeping surface a full cubit off the ground. This height is not decorative. This is survival strategy. Scorpions hunt at night, scuttling across floors, seeking warmth and darkness. Serpents slide through cracks, looking for rodents to prey upon. Insects of various kinds crawl and creep, but they rarely climb. The elevated bed is a moat. A castle keepeth for the vulnerable sleeping body. The sleeping surface itself is ingenious. Rope, woven in a tight lattice pattern, stretched between the wooden frame. Not quite hammock, not quite mattress. Something between. The rope gives slightly underweight, conforming to the body, providing support without rigidity. Over this rope base, a thin mattress, nothing thick or plush, just folded linen, sometimes stuffed with straw or dried reeds or palm fiber. In this heat, thick padding would trap body heat. The thin mattress allows air circulation, keeps the sleeper cool, prevents night sweats from becoming unbearable. Simple, functional, effective. This was their secret. That less is often more. That comfort in hot climates requires breathability, not padding. That elevation protects. That the bed, like the body itself, must be designed in conversation with the environment. She tests the rope tension with her hand. Perfect. Ready for the night's voyage. Chapter 2. The Headrest. Wooden Pillow. On the bed lies an object that would make modern sleepers recoil. The headrest. It's carved from a single piece of wood, usually sycamore, sometimes ivory for the wealthy. The shape is elegant, curved, beautiful even, but comfortable. By our standards, absolutely not. The design. A curved platform, raised on a central pedestal, creating a crescent that supports the neck while leaving the head suspended. Imagine lying down and resting your neck on a carved wooden saddle. That's the headrest. Why? Why this instead of soft pillows stuffed with feathers or down? First, temperature. The head elevated, the neck supported, allows air to circulate completely around the head and face. No pillow trapping heat, no sweating into fabric, just open air, cooling, drying. Second, preservation. They spend hours creating elaborate hairstyles, applying wigs, setting everything just so. A soft pillow would crush, tangle, destroy the day's grooming work. The headrest keeps the hair and wig intact, suspended, preserved. Third, protection. Many headrests are decorated with protective symbols. Images of Bez, the dwarf god who guards sleep. Eyes of Horus watching. Spells carved into the wood. The headrest is not just furniture, but talisman, guardian, shield against night terrors and evil spirits. It takes time to adjust to sleeping on a headrest. Children are trained gradually. But once accustomed, it becomes normal, even preferred. This was their secret. That comfort is learned, not universal. That sleeping tools should serve multiple purposes. That even rest requires protection. She positions her headrest carefully, checking the angle. Her neck already knows where it will settle. Chapter 3. Linen sheets. Over the rope base, over the thin mattress, she spreads the linen sheet. It's white, always white, clean, recently washed, smelling of sun and river water. Linen is perfect for this climate. The flax fibers are naturally cooling. They wick moisture away from skin. They're strong enough to withstand frequent washing. They soften with age, rather than deteriorating. She smoothed the sheet carefully, tucking edges under the mattress. Wrinkles are not just aesthetic issues. They create uncomfortable pressure points. A smooth sheet is a kindness to the sleeping body. In winter, during the brief cool season, a second sheet might be added, or a light woolen blanket. But most of the year, one linen sheet is enough. Sometimes even that is too much, pushed aside in the deepest night when heat builds even in darkness. The wealthy have sheets with decorative borders, woven patterns, dyed edges. The poor have sheets that are simply functional. But everyone has them. Linen is abundant here. The flax grows easily. The processing is well established. Even the poorest household can afford basic linen, and they keep it clean. Sheets are changed regularly, washed in the Nile with natron, dried in the sun, which bleaches and sterilizes. Fresh sheets are not luxury. They're basic hygiene. They're respect for the bed, for sleep, for the body that will spend a third of its life here. This was their secret. That cleanliness extends to bedding. That fresh linen is medicine for both body and mind. That the quality of sleep begins with the quality of what touches your skin. The sheet is perfect now. White, smooth, ready, inviting. Chapter 4. Night Air and Windows. The bedroom window is small, a practical size, not the large openings we might prefer. Small enough for security. Small enough to prevent larger animals from entering. But open. Always open, unless a storm threatens. The night air here is transformative. After the brutal heat of day, after the sun has baked everything to near unbearable temperatures, the desert performs its miracle. It cools. Rapidly. Dramatically. Without moisture in the air to trap heat. The temperature plummets. Not to cold exactly. This isn't mountain winter. But to coolness. To relief. To temperatures that make sleep possible. The breeze finds its way through the small window. It carries scents. Desert sage, night-blooming jasmine from a neighbor's courtyard, the distant Nile, smoke from dying cooking fires. It carries sounds. A dog barking far away, night birds calling, the rustle of palm fronds, occasionally a donkey's complaint. But mostly, it carries coolness, and freshness, and the promise of rest. There is no artificial light to speak of. No street lamps, no electric glow. When the sun sets, darkness is complete. The only light comes from stars. So many stars, undimmed by any competing illumination. The Milky Way is a river across the sky, almost bright enough to cast shadows. This darkness is not frightening. It's familiar, expected, natural. The day is for action. The night is for rest. The division is clear, respected, supported by the body's own rhythms. This was their secret. That good sleep requires good air. That windows should be opened, not sealed. That darkness is ally, not enemy. That nature's temperature rhythms should be welcomed, not fought. She breathes deeply. The night air fills her lungs. Perfect. Cool. Ready. Chapter 5. Protection against night spirits. The bedroom is not just physical space. It's spiritual territory. And nighttime, when consciousness loosens its grip, when dreams begin, when the boundary between worlds grows thin, nighttime is dangerous. Hung above the bed, an amulet. The Eye of Horus, carved from faience, glazed brilliant blue. It watches, always watches, seeing what the sleeping cannot see, guarding against spiritual intrusion. Near the door, a small figurine of Bes, the dwarf god, guardian of households, protector of sleep and children and women in childbirth. He's depicted dancing, tongue out, fierce despite his size. He frightens away demons, keeps night terrors at bay. Around her neck, a scarab amulet, symbol of regeneration, of the sun's daily rebirth, worn even in sleep, especially in sleep, because sleeping is a small death, and waking is rebirth, and the scarab helps ensure that rebirth happens. They believe, truly believe, that sleep is vulnerability, that the spirit loosens its attachment to the body, that malevolent forces can slip in through the cracks of consciousness, that nightmares are not random neural firing but actual spiritual attacks, so they protect, they ward, They surround themselves with symbols and prayers and guardian deities, not out of superstition exactly, out of carefulness, out of the deep understanding that the unseen world is as real as the seen one and requires just as much attention. This was their secret, that psychological comfort is as important as physical comfort, that feeling safe allows sleep to deepen, that protective rituals, whether or not they work mechanically, work psychologically, that the mind must be settled before the body can truly rest. The amulets are in place. The guardians are watching. She can surrender now. She can close her eyes safely. Chapter 6. Dreams as messages. Sleep comes. Consciousness fades. And then, the dreams begin. They do not view dreams as we do, as random processing, as neural housekeeping, as meaningless images conjured by a resting brain. No, dreams are communications, direct lines from the divine, messages that must be interpreted, remembered, acted upon. There exists a papyrus, the dream book, cataloging hundreds of dream scenarios and their meanings. Dreaming of white bread means good things coming. Dreaming of your teeth falling out means death of a relative. Dreaming of seeing your face in a mirror means new wife. Dreaming of a deep well means imprisonment. Some dreams are straightforward blessings. Some are warnings. Some require ritual action to prevent predicted misfortune. All are taken seriously. In the morning, dreams are discussed. Families share what visions came in the night. Some people keep mental catalogues of their dreams, watching for patterns, for recurring symbols, for building messages from the gods. If a dream is particularly vivid, particularly troubling, or clearly prophetic, a priest might be consulted. Professional interpreters who know the symbols, who can decode the divine language, who can prescribe the proper response. An offering, a ritual, a change in behavior. This was their secret, that they honored the unconscious mind before psychology existed, that they recognized dreams as meaningful before neuroscience explained them, that whether or not dreams are literally divine messages, treating them as significant creates a deeper relationship with one's inner life. She sleeps now, deeply, and she dreams. Images form, symbols appear, messages are being delivered in that ancient language spoken before words. Chapter 7. Dream Incubation. For those seeking specific guidance, for those with unanswered questions, for those desperate for divine intervention, there is a special practice. Dream incubation. They travel to specific temples, usually dedicated to Imhotep, the deified architect and healer, or to Serapis, or to other deities associated with healing and wisdom. They bring offerings. They undergo purification, fasting, bathing, sometimes abstaining from sexual activity. Then, they sleep in the temple, in special chambers set aside for this purpose, surrounded by sacred imagery, saturated in divine atmosphere, their intention focused. Please, send me a dream, answer my question, heal my illness, show me the path, and often, it works, or seems to work. They receive vivid dreams, specific instructions, clear visions that feel qualitatively different from normal sleep. Sometimes the dream itself is the cure, the psychological release of tension, the feeling of being heard by higher powers. Sometimes the dream contains actual medical advice, herbs to try, behaviors to change. Sometimes the dream is interpreted by temple priests who prescribe treatment based on its symbols. It's a fascinating blend of psychology, spirituality, and medicine, a recognition that healing happens on multiple levels, that the mind and body are not separate, that sleep, properly approached, can be therapeutic. This was their secret, that sleep could be directed, that intention before sleeping affects what happens during sleep, that the boundary between waking desire and sleeping vision is more permeable than we assume. That temples could be hospitals, and beds could be altars, and dreams could be prescriptions. Not everyone does this, but everyone knows it's possible. That sleep is not passive, that it can be worked with, engaged, partnered with. Chapter 8. Children sleep. In the corner of the same room, on a smaller mat, the children sleep. They are close, very close, within arm's reach of parents. This is not indulgence or coddling. This is practical, protective, necessary. Children are vulnerable. They need to be guarded, and parents need to hear if something goes wrong in the night. Before the children slept, there was the bedtime ritual. The mother's voice, soft, singing an ancient lullaby. The words passed down through generations. The melody almost as old as the Nile itself. Songs about the moon goddess Isis protecting babies. About the sun, god Ra, promising to return each morning. About crocodiles who don't eat good children who sleep when they're told. Then stories. Not read, few can read, but told, memorized and passed along. Tales of Osiris and Set, of the clever jackal god Anubis, of magical transformations and moral lessons. Stories that educate while they entertain, that instill values while they lull. The children's eyes grew heavy. Their breathing slowed. One by one they surrendered to sleep, feeling safe because their parents are near, because the familiar voice surrounded them, because the ritual reassured them. This is normal. This is right. Sleep is safe here. Education doesn't stop when eyes close. The stories continue working, processing, integrating into understanding. The songs create neural pathways, emotional associations. The closeness builds attachment security. This was their secret, that children learn even while sleeping. That bedtime rituals are not frivolous. That proximity during vulnerable night hours builds trust that extends into waking life. That parenting includes shepherding children through the dangerous hours of darkness. The children breathe softly, small chests rising and falling, deeply asleep, dreaming their own small dreams. Chapter 9. The cool of night. The temperature continues dropping. The relief is profound. During the day, the sun is enemy, oppressor. The heat can kill, can cause exhaustion, confusion, collapse. Everyone moves slowly in afternoon heat, seeks shade, waits for evening. But night is generous. Night gives back what day took away. Coolness, comfort, the possibility of deep rest. Her body begins to release the heat it accumulated during daylight hours. Her muscles, tensed against heat, finally relax. Her breath deepens. Her heart rate slows. All the physical stress of surviving another day in intense climate begins to dissolve. This is when true sleep becomes possible. Not the fitful, sweaty dozing of hot afternoon naps, but real sleep. Restorative sleep. The kind that repairs tissue and consolidates memory and regulates hormones. The wooden headrest, which seemed uncomfortable at first, now makes sense. Cool air circulates around her head and neck. No trapped heat. No sweaty pillow. Just open air. Refreshing. Perfect. The linen sheet is just enough coverage. Modest. Comforting. But not stifling. She can move freely, turn when needed, adjust without waking fully. Outside, the desert continues its cooling. The stone walls that baked all day are now releasing stored heat slowly, warming the interior slightly but not oppressively. The balance is perfect. Natural climate control, designed through centuries of architectural trial and error. This was their secret. That they built in harmony with temperature cycles. That they didn't fight nature but worked with it. That patience during the day is rewarded by comfort at night. That the body, given proper conditions, knows exactly how to rest. She is deeply asleep now. The cool night has claimed her. She is traveling. Chapter 10. Snoring and Remedies. Not everything about ancient Egyptian sleep was serene and mystical. Some things were Hilariously human, like snoring. The papyri mention it. Medical texts address it. Families dealt with it. Because some people snored. Loudly. Disruptively. Enough to wake others in these small shared sleeping spaces. Their remedies are charming in their desperation. Sleep on your side, not your back. Place a rolled piece of linen under your neck to adjust the angle. Avoid heavy meals before bed. Drink less beer in the evening. Some remedies were more creative. Aromatic herbs placed near the head. Mint, chamomile. Supposedly to open airways. Prayers to Bez, asking him to quiet the disturbing sounds. Even, in some texts, sleeping separately, which must have been controversial in a culture where sleeping alone was nearly unthinkable. But mostly, they tolerated it. Because what choice was there? Snoring was part of life, part of sharing space, part of family. You dealt with it. Maybe grumbled about it. Maybe developed the ability to sleep through it. There's something deeply reassuring about this. That even in ancient civilization, even among people who built pyramids and invented written language and created sophisticated theology, someone's father snored so loudly it kept the whole house awake. This was their secret. That not everything needs mystical explanation. That some problems are just problems. That human bodies are human bodies across millennia. That tolerance and humor are essential technologies for shared living. Somewhere in the night, someone snores. Someone else sighs with patient resignation. Life continues, imperfect and real. Chapter 11. Night Prayers. Just before sleep claimed her completely, she whispered words. Brief, simple, barely audible even to herself. Not the formal temple prayers. Not the elaborate hymns sung by priests. Just personal words. Intimate communication with the divine. Thank you for this day. For bread, for water, for family. Protect us through the night. Bring back the sun. Keep away sickness. That's guard our sleep. 20 seconds maybe. But sincere, heartfelt. A closing bracket on the day. This nightly prayer is not commanded by priests. It's not written in religious texts. It's simply what people do. A private ritual. A moment of acknowledgement that they are not in control. That forces larger than themselves govern reality. That asking for protection is reasonable, sensible, wise. Some people pray to specific deities. Ra for the sun's return. Bez for sleep protection. Isis for family health. Some people pray more generally to the concept of divine order, to Mayat itself. Some people hardly pray at all. Just breathe a wordless feeling of hope into the darkness. But almost everyone does something. Some small gesture of surrender, of trust, of faith that morning will come, despite the surrounding darkness. This was their secret. That prayer doesn't need to be elaborate to be real. That bedtime prayer is profoundly human. That acknowledging dependence on forces beyond control is not weakness, but wisdom. That the last thoughts before sleep shape the quality of that sleep. Her lips stop moving. The prayer is complete. She is held now, safe, protected by faith, by family, by four walls, and good intentions. Sleep deepens. The journey continues. Chapter 12. The stillness before dawn. The darkest hour is not midnight, but the hour before dawn. The deepest cold. The most complete silence. The moment when night has exhausted itself but hasn't yet yielded to day. She is far into sleep now. Beyond dreams, or between them. In the deep, restorative phases where the body repairs itself at cellular level. Where growth hormone releases. Where memories consolidate. Where the immune system does its most important work. Her breathing is slow, perhaps 6 breaths per minute. Deep, regular, meditative without any conscious effort. Her spirit, they believe, is traveling, not metaphorically, actually traveling, through the duat, the underworld, the realm of gods and dead, experiencing what the deceased experience. rehearsing for the final journey that will one day come. This is why waking is called rebirth, because sleep is a small death, a temporary departure, and morning is resurrection, the spirit returning, the sun returning, life beginning again. She knows none of this consciously. She is utterly unconscious. But her culture knows, and has built rituals around it, and will greet her waking with appropriate reverence for what she's survived. This was their secret, that they took sleep seriously as spiritual practice, that they understood rest as sacred, that unconsciousness is not absence, but transformation, that every morning is miracle. The sky, still black, begins to show the faintest suggestion of change. Not light yet, not even gray, just less dark. The promise of less dark. Dawn is preparing. The sun god is beginning his journey. The sleepers will wake soon. But not yet. Not quite yet. Chapter 13. Réflexion et transition. Sleep was not an end, but a journey. They closed their eyes knowing they would travel, and return transformed. Their beds were fortresses. Their headrests were guardians. Their linen sheets were clean armor. Their windows were portals for cooling night air. Their amulets were spiritual security systems. Their prayers were navigation tools for the dark voyage. They knew what we're remembering, that sleep is not passive. It's active. It's vulnerable. It requires preparation, protection, intention. That the quality of rest determines the quality of waking life. The wealthy slept on finer beds with decorated headrests and thicker mattresses. The poor slept on simpler versions of the same basic technology. But everyone slept elevated. Everyone used linen. Everyone faced the same night, the same dreams, the same need for protection and restoration. In their bedrooms, we see practical wisdom. In their bedtime rituals, we see psychological sophistication. In their dream interpretation, we see respect for the unconscious. In their night prayers, we see appropriate humility before mystery. They gave sleep the attention it deserved, because they understood. A people who sleep well build better pyramids, think more clearly, heal more quickly, dream more vividly, live more fully. She still sleeps. The night still holds her, but change is coming. The first bird calls. The sky shifts from black to deepest blue. Soon she will wake. Soon the day will begin again. Soon the cycle will complete and start over. But for now, listen. Can you hear it? The sound of deep breathing. The profound silence of healthy sleep. The stillness that contains such powerful activity beneath its surface. The third secret has been shared, but one more remains. One more hidden treasure from daily life, one more ordinary magic. When she wakes, she might write, record a dream perhaps, or a prayer, or a letter to someone far away. And in that writing, we'll discover their final secret, the one written in ink and papyrus. Words they knew were not just communication. Words were magic. Literal, actual, powerful magic. Let us discover what they knew about the sacred act of writing. Historia 4. The secret written in ink. Chapter 1. Words as magic. Morning has come. She has woken, washed, eaten, and now she prepares to do something extraordinary. She is going to write. Not everyone can. Most cannot. Reading and writing are specialized skills, requiring years of training. Available primarily to those who can afford apprenticeship to a scribe. But she is learning. Or perhaps she already knows. For this moment she has access to the tools and the knowledge. Because writing, in this civilization, is not merely communication. It is power. It is creation. It is magic in its most literal form. They believe, truly, deeply believe, that to name something is to give it existence, that words spoken aloud have force, that words written down have permanence that transcends death itself. When a pharaoh's enemies seek to destroy him, they don't just kill him, they erase his name. They chisel it out of temple walls. They scratch it off papyri. They remove it from the historical record. Because to erase the name is to erase the existence, to make him not just dead, but never having been. The reverse is equally powerful. To write someone's name in a tomb is to ensure their eternal life. To speak the name of the dead is to resurrect them momentarily. To inscribe a spell on papyrus is to activate that spell's power. This is not metaphor to them. This is reality. Words are living things. Writing is creation act. The scribe who copies a religious text is performing sacred ritual, not clerical work. This was their secret, that they understood something we've forgotten, that language shapes reality, that naming influences existence, that writing is not passive recording, but active creating. She picks up the reed pen. The blank papyrus waits. Whatever she writes next will become real, will exist, will persist. The responsibility is enormous. The power is intoxicating. Chapter 2. The Sacred Papyrus. The sheet before her is itself miraculous. It came from the Nile marshes where papyrus plants grow thick and tall, their triangular stems rising higher than a man's head, crowned with shaggy flower heads. The process of transformation is labor-intensive. First, harvest the stems, strip away the outer rind, slice the inner pith into thin strips, as thin as possible while maintaining integrity. Then, lay the strips side by side, slightly overlapping, all running in one direction. Layer another set of strips perpendicular to the first. Press them together. Pound them. The plant's natural juices act as glue, binding the layers into a unified sheet. Finally, dry the press sheets under weight, smoothing them, creating a surface that will accept ink without excessive absorption or bleeding. The result? Papyrus. Light, portable, durable, flexible, capable of being rolled and unrolled thousands of times without disintegrating. Perfect for writing. Egypt exports papyrus across the known world. It's their monopoly, their advantage. Other nations must import it at great cost. Here it's abundant, though still valuable. Still too precious to waste. Still treated with respect. The sheet before her represents hours of skilled labor. It represents the Nile's generosity, the marshes that produce the plants. It represents the chain of workers who harvested, processed, pressed, and traded to bring this sheet to her hands. She touches the surface lightly. Smooth, slightly textured, ready to receive words, ready to make temporary thoughts permanent. This was their secret, that writing requires worthy surface, that the substrate matters as much as the words, that papyrus was not just material but partner in preservation, that some plants, properly transformed, can hold human thought for millennia. The sheet waits, patient, expectant, about to be transformed from potential to actual. Chapter 3. Making ink. On her palette, a rectangular piece of wood, worn smooth from use, sit two small depressions. One contains black ink, one contains red. The black was made yesterday. She watched the process, or perhaps participated. Charcoal from burned wood, ground to finest powder. Gum arabic from acacia trees. Sticky resin that will bind the pigment. Water to create the right consistency. Mix thoroughly. The result is dense black liquid, slightly glossy, quick drying but capable of lasting forever. Ink from 3,000-year-old papyri is still black, still readable, still clear. The red ink uses different pigment. Red ochre, iron oxide from desert clay. The process is similar. The purpose is distinct. Red is for titles, headings, corrections, important words that need emphasis. Red is the color of vitality, of blood, of life force. Used sparingly but powerfully. Both inks have a smell. Earthy, slightly sweet from the gum. Mineral, not unpleasant. The smell of knowledge being prepared. The smell of permanence being created. She dips a small amount of water onto the black ink cake, activating it. The brush, a reed with fibers carefully frayed at the tip, picks up the reconstituted ink. Not too much, not too little, just enough. This was their secret. That ink doesn't need to be complex to be eternal. That simple ingredients, properly combined, can preserve thought across ages. That writing tools can be made from plants and minerals. Democracy through availability. The brush is loaded. The ink is ready. The first mark is about to be made. Chapter 4. The Reed Pen. The pen itself is elegant simplicity. Take a reed, specifically Juncus maritimus, which grows along the Nile. Cut it to length, perhaps a handspan long. Cut the tip at an angle, creating a broad nib or a fine point depending on preference. Then, and this is crucial, chew the end slightly, or brush it against a rough stone. The fibers separate, creating multiple points within the single tip. This holds more ink, creates more consistent flow, allows for variation in line weight depending on pressure. The result is a tool that costs nearly nothing, can be replaced easily, and works beautifully. Responsive, flexible, capable of creating both thick, bold strokes and delicate, thin lines. She holds it now, testing the balance. It feels right. Extension of hand, extension of thought. The channel through which internal ideas become external reality. For important documents, for sacred texts, for careful work. The scribe moves slowly. Each hieroglyph is drawn with attention. Each curve is precise. Each straight line is straight. The quality of writing reflects the importance of content. For everyday documents, letters, receipts, administrative records, a faster, more cursive script is used. Hieratic, they call it. Priestly writing, efficient, quick, still readable, but abbreviated, stylized. The pen doesn't care. It works for both. It responds to the scribe's intention, skill, and speed. This was their secret. That writing tools need not be expensive to be effective. That a marsh plant, properly prepared, can record civilization. That technology often comes from observation of natural materials. She positions the pen. The papyrus waits beneath. The first stroke is imminent. Chapter 5. Learning to write. She remembers learning. Or perhaps she's teaching her own child now, passing on the knowledge. Scribal training begins young, 7, 8 years old. It takes years to master. A decade is not unusual. First lessons are not on papyrus. Too expensive for student errors. Instead, ostraca, pottery shards, limestone flakes. Any smooth surface that will accept ink. These are free, abundant, disposable. The student copies religious texts, copies literary works, copies multiplication tables and legal formulas, copies until hand and eye and mind are coordinated, until the shapes are automatic, until writing becomes as natural as speaking. Mistakes are corrected firmly. Your horizontal line slopes upward. Fix it. This bird hieroglyph faces the wrong direction. Your spacing is uneven. The training is rigorous. Precision matters. Sloppy writing is insulting to the content, insulting to the reader, insulting to the sacred act of writing itself. But gradually, skill develops. The student progresses from ostraca to papyrus scraps, from scraps to full sheets, from copying to composing, from supervised work to independent creation. Not everyone completes training. Many drop out, return to farming, or craft work. Those who persist become scribes, respected, essential, powerful members of society. They don't do physical labor. They sit in shade while others sweat in sun. They work with their minds. This was their secret. That literacy is power worth years of difficulty. That writing is not natural skill but learned art. That education requires discipline. But discipline brings freedom from physical toil. She writes now with confidence earned through practice, each stroke deliberate, each symbol clear. Chapter 6. 3 Scripts. On the papyrus before her, she could write in 3 different ways. 3 scripts, 3 purposes, 3 speeds. First, hieroglyphs, sacred writing, literally sacred carvings. These are the formal, beautiful, pictorial symbols carved into temple walls and painted in tombs. The owl, the reed, the seated man, the water ripple, the basket. Each symbol represents a sound, or sometimes a whole word, or sometimes a concept. Hieroglyphs are slow, detailed. Each one is small artwork, used for important texts, for religious inscriptions, for anything meant to last eternally. Reading them is like decoding pictures that speak. Second, hieratic, priestly writing. This is hieroglyphs cursive, simplified, connected, faster, used for everyday documents, religious papyri, letters, accounts. Still formal, still precise, but practical. Most literature is written in hieratic. Third, demotic, people's writing. This came later, even more simplified. Used for business, legal contracts, everyday correspondence. Quick, efficient, almost unrecognizable from its hieroglyphic origins. She chooses hieratic for her current task. Formal enough to be respectful, fast enough to be practical. The script of educated people conducting regular business. Her hand moves across the papyrus. The symbols flow. Reed, mouth, water, hand. Each one carries sound. Together they create words. Together they create meaning. This was their secret. That writing systems can layer. That different contexts require different tools. That efficiency and beauty need not be at odds. Just used appropriately. The words take shape. Thought becomes visible. Internal becomes external. Chapter 7. The Scribe's Palette. Her palette is her office, her toolkit, her identity. The wooden board, about the length of her forearm, has several features. At one end, the 2 ink wells. Circular depressions where ink cakes sit. Black and red, always. At the other end, a slot holds reed pens of various sizes. In the middle, a small trough for water. Everything needed. Portable. Complete. The palette is often personalized. Some scribes have their names carved into the wood. Some have prayers inscribed. Some have illustrations of Thoth, god of writing, depicted as ibis-headed man or sacred baboon. When not in use, the palette is stored carefully. When in use, it's positioned just so, within easy reach, stable, properly lit. The workspace of the mind worker is as important as the forge of the blacksmith or the bench of the carpenter. Professional scribes develop calluses, not on hands from tools, but on inner thighs from holding the palette while seated cross-legged. Not on shoulders from carrying, but on fingers from gripping pens for hours. Physical marks of mental labor. Status comes with this work. Scribes are addressed respectfully. They witness important transactions. Their literacy makes them trusted. They advise nobles. They keep temples functioning. They preserve knowledge. They are essential. This was their secret. That knowledge workers are real workers. That literacy creates different kind of power. That the palette is weapon, tool, and badge all at once. She cleans her palette carefully after finishing. Rinses the inkwells. Stores the pens properly. Treats her tools with respect they deserve. Chapter 8. Writing as prayer. Not all writing is administrative. Not all ink serves bureaucracy. Some writing is devotional, sacred copying. The act itself is prayer. In temple scriptoriums, monks, though they wouldn't use that word, spend hours copying religious texts, the Book of the Dead, pyramid texts, hymns to various gods, not because copies are needed for distribution, but because the act of copying is worship. Each hieroglyph drawn carefully is meditation. Each word written correctly is offering. Each completed text is gift to the divine. The scribe breathes slowly, focuses completely, clears the mind of distraction. Present, attentive, holy. Mistakes are serious. A misspelled divine name is not typo but offense. The text might need to be destroyed and restarted, or carefully corrected with both black ink and red notation explaining the error. Perfection is goal. Precision is reverence. While copying, the scribe sometimes whispers, reads aloud softly what is being written, engages multiple senses. Hand sees through eye, speaks through mouth, writes through fingers. Complete integration of body and text. This was their secret, that writing can be spiritual practice, that repetitive, focused work induces meditative state, that preserving wisdom is itself wise action, that the copyist is as important as the original author. Even for non-religious texts, there's care, there's attention, there's understanding that writing is never just writing. It's always also ritual, always also magic, always also prayer. Chapter 9. Letters to the Dead. Sometimes she writes letters to people who cannot read them, will never read them, cannot respond, because the recipient is dead. This is common practice, writing to deceased relatives, not metaphorically. Actual letters composed carefully, written on papyrus or ostraca. To my beloved father, who rests in the beautiful West, I write to inform you of trouble. Your grandson is ill. The harvest is poor. Your widow struggles. Please intercede with the gods on our behalf. Use your influence in the afterlife. Help us as you helped us in life. The letter is then taken to the tomb, sometimes placed inside, sometimes buried near the entrance, sometimes burned, the smoke carrying the message upward, across realms. Do the dead read them? Can they? The Egyptians believe yes. The dead are not gone. They're relocated. They exist differently, but still exist. They can influence the living. They can hear prayers. They can receive correspondence. Writing to the dead serves multiple purposes. It maintains relationship. It processes grief. It asks for help. It updates them on family news. It's therapeutic, even if we'd now call it symbolic. But to them, it's not symbolic. It's practical. It's communication. The dead are stakeholders in family welfare. They need to be kept informed. And writing is how you reach across the boundary. This was their secret. That death doesn't end relationship, only transforms it. That writing bridges worlds. That papyrus can travel farther than any boat. That ink can carry love beyond mortality. The letter is folded, sealed with clay, addressed to someone who lives nowhere and everywhere. Chapter 10. Medical Papyri. In the archive, every temple has one, some wealthy homes have smaller versions, sit papyri, documenting the accumulated medical knowledge of centuries. She unrolls one carefully. It's old. The papyrus is darkening with age, but the ink remains clear, readable, transferring wisdom from then to now. Case 17. If you examine a man with a wound to his head, penetrating to bone, you shall say, an ailment I will treat. Each case is detailed. Symptoms observed. Diagnosis made. Treatment prescribed. Prognosis given. An ailment I will treat means curable. An ailment I will contend with means difficult. An ailment not to be treated means hopeless. The treatments are fascinating mix. Empirical observation. Clean wounds heal better than dirty ones. Herbal knowledge. Willow bark reduces pain and fever. It contains salicylic acid, precursor to aspirin. Surgical technique. Fractures set with splints and bandages, but also spells. Incantations. Magical amulets. Because healing works on multiple levels, physical and spiritual. Medicine and magic are not separate categories. They're complementary approaches to the same goal. Restoration of health. These papyri are studied, copied, updated. Each generation adds observations, refines treatments. The written word becomes cumulative knowledge rather than personal experience dying with each practitioner. This was their secret. That writing enables progress. That documented knowledge accumulates. That medical science begins with careful description. That healing is both empirical observation and faith in powers beyond understanding. The papyrus is rolled again, returned to its place, ready for the next person who needs its wisdom. Chapter 11. Love Poetry. Not all papyri contain religious texts or medical knowledge or legal contracts. Some contain poetry, beautiful, passionate, surprisingly intimate love poetry. She reads one now, or perhaps composes her own. My heart remembers your love. Half of my temple crumbles, while the other half stands firm. I am incomplete without you. Come to me like lotus scent carried on water. Let me see your face, which outshines the sun. Your voice is wine, sweet and intoxicating. To live is to love you. To die would be forgetting you, which is more impossible than the Nile flowing backward. These poems exist. Dozens of them, preserved on papyrus, written 3,000 years ago, expressing feelings universal and timeless. They use metaphor, gardens, rivers, birds, flowers. They speak of longing and desire. They're sometimes explicit, sometimes coy, always heartfelt. Young scribes practice by copying them. Perhaps that's how courtship works sometimes. A young man copies a love poem, presents it to a young woman, claiming authorship. Ancient plagiarism in service of romance. Or perhaps she writes original verses. Perhaps literacy enables personal expression. Perhaps people fall in love and need to articulate it. And writing allows that articulation to persist beyond the moment of feeling. This was their secret. That writing serves heart as much as head. That literacy enables emotional expression. That poetry is preserved alongside practical documents because both matter. That love is worthy of ink and papyrus. The poem sits on the page, vulnerable, honest, waiting to be read by the intended recipient, or by strangers 3 millennia later, who will recognize their own hearts in ancient words. Chapter 12. The Power of Erasure. Writing creates, but writing can also destroy. When a pharaoh is overthrown, when he falls from favor, when successor wants to rewrite history, the chisels come out, the names are removed, scratched from temple walls, gouged out of stone, erased from papyri. This is damnatio memoriae, condemnation of memory, making someone unexist, not just killing their body, but killing their legacy, their name, their eternal life. It happens to Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh who tried to establish monotheism. After his death, successors systematically erase him from record. His temples dismantled, his name scratched out. His queen, Nefertiti, nearly lost to history. It happens to Hatshepsut, the female pharaoh. Her stepson, inheriting the throne, orders her images defaced, her names removed, her accomplishments attributed to others, trying to erase the anomaly of Woman King. But sometimes it doesn't work completely. Sometimes the erasure is sloppy. Sometimes people remember. Sometimes enough evidence remains to reconstruct what was meant to be forgotten. The reverse is equally powerful. To write a name is to preserve it. To inscribe it in stone is to make it eternal. This is why temple walls are covered with cartouches, oval frames containing royal names. Protection, preservation, immortality, through inscription. This was their secret, that writing is ultimate power, that controlling narrative means controlling reality, that erasure is violence, that preservation is love, that names matter more than almost anything. To write is to make real. To erase is to make unreal. The pen, or chisel, is mighty beyond measure. Chapter 13. Réflexion et transition. They knew what we're only remembering. Words shape reality. To write was to make eternal. Their hieroglyphs were not just symbols, but living things. Their papyri were not just documents, but sacred vessels. Their ink was not just pigment, but potential made permanent. Their scribes were not just workers, but magicians, creating reality with each stroke. The wealthy commissioned elaborate texts for their tombs. The poor sometimes managed a simple name carved in stone, but everyone understood. To be named is to exist. To be written is to persist. In their writing we see civilization preserved. In their papyri, we hear voices across millennia. In their careful copying, we see knowledge accumulated. In their love poetry, we recognize our own hearts. In their medical texts, we see science beginning. They wrote on papyrus that has survived 3,000 years. They carved in stone that remains readable today. They understood something profound, that thought is temporary, but written thought can be eternal. Every morning, somewhere in Egypt, a scribe sat with palette and pen. Every day, words were written, letters sent, wisdom recorded, stories preserved, love declared, history documented. And because they wrote, we know them. Because they wrote, they live still. Because they wrote, their secrets are not lost, but revealed, waiting patient in archives and tombs and museums, ready to speak again when someone takes the time to listen. She finishes writing now. The papyrus is rolled carefully. The ink will dry completely within minutes. The words will remain for as long as the papyrus survives, perhaps forever. Listen. Do you hear it? The soft sound of papyrus rolling, the whisper of words drying, the gentle exhalation of creation completed. The fourth secret has been shared, the final mystery revealed. But the night grows late. The stories have been told. The ordinary has been shown as extraordinary. It is time now. Time to rest. Time to remember. Time to sleep, carrying these secrets with you into dreams. Come, the ending awaits. Not an ending, really. A completion. A return. A closing of the circle. In Serenity, secrets kept, secrets shared. The moon has risen high now, full and ancient, casting the same silver light it cast 3,000 years ago. The marketplace where we began? Or perhaps it's a temple courtyard, or maybe a quiet house. Sits empty and peaceful. You've traveled far tonight. Through water and skin and bread and dreams and ink. Through the hidden chambers of everyday magic. Through the secrets that were never really secret, just forgotten, overlooked, dismissed as ordinary when they were always extraordinary. They washed, and in washing they prayed. They fed themselves, and in feeding they healed. They slept, and in sleeping they traveled. They wrote, and in writing they created reality itself. These were not secrets they tried to hide. These were not mysteries locked away in forbidden scrolls. These were the rhythms of daily life, the texture of existence, the accumulated wisdom of a civilization that understood something we're only now remembering, that the sacred and the mundane are not separate, that the body and the spirit are not at war, that survival and beauty can be the same impulse, that paying attention to simple things, how you wash your hands, how you prepare your food, how you arrange your sleep, how you form your words, is paying attention to everything. They knew that water is never just water, that bread is never just bread, that sleep is never just unconsciousness, that words are never just sounds or marks on paper. In every drop poured over skin, there was gratitude. In every loaf baked, there was transformation. In every night survived, there was resurrection. In every word written, there was creation. The secrets were hidden in plain sight. In the natron they used to clean their bodies, the same natron that would one day preserve those bodies for eternity. In the fermentation they mastered without understanding, partnering with invisible organisms to create sustenance. In the dreams they honored, recognizing the unconscious mind as worthy of attention. In the hieroglyphs they drew, believing deeply that writing was magic, and being right. We've lost so much of this. We wash without thinking. We eat without gratitude. We sleep without preparation. We write without reverence. We've gained much: science, understanding, mechanism. But we've lost something too. The sense that ordinary actions are sacred, that daily rhythms are ritual, that paying careful attention to how you live each day is paying attention to how you live your whole life. But the Nile still flows, the bread still rises, the ink still dries, and we still sleep, dreaming of what was and what remains. Their secrets are your secrets now. Carry them gently. Use them wisely. Remember them when you wash tomorrow morning. Really wash, with attention, with gratitude for water and skin. Remember them when you eat, tasting fully, grateful for fermentation and flavor and the hands that prepared it. Remember them when you lie down tonight, arranging your space, setting intention, honoring sleep as the sacred voyage it is. Remember them when you write, knowing that your words shape reality, that what you write becomes real, becomes permanent, becomes part of the eternal record. You are not so different from them. You inhabit a body that needs tending. You eat food that requires wisdom to choose well. You sleep each night, vulnerable and trusting. You use words to create your world. The tools have changed. The underlying needs remain identical. So sleep now, keeper of secrets. Close your eyes, knowing you carry within you the wisdom of a people who built monuments that still stand, who wrote words we still read, who understood that immortality comes not from avoiding death, but from living with such intention that your life echoes forward through time. The marketplace is empty now. The moon is high. The desert wind carries the faint scent of the Nile, of bread baking somewhere for tomorrow's sunrise, of papyrus growing in distant marshes. Rest your head, not on wooden headrest, but on whatever pillow holds you. Let your breath slow. Let your mind quiet. Let the day dissolve behind closed eyes. You are protected by walls around you, by love in your life, by the same forces that protected them, by the simple fact of being alive here, now, breathing this exact air in this exact moment, ordinary air, which is also extraordinary, always was, always will be. The secrets have been shared. The night has grown deep. The time for words has passed. Sleep now. Dream well. Travel safely through whatever realms sleep takes you. And when you wake, and you will wake, as certain as the sun returns, you'll carry something with you. A different way of seeing the ordinary. A recognition of magic hiding in plain sight. A secret kept by being lived. Good night, traveler through time. The ancestors are watching. The stars are wheeling. The night is gentle. Close your eyes now and rest. The sound of breathing. Deep, slow, peaceful. The distant whisper of wind across sand. The eternal silence that contains everything. And then, nothing. Just sleep. Just dreams. Just the sacred darkness that gives birth to every new morning.